Welcome everyone to today's Social System Mapping sumApp Tech Talk for September 28th, 2020. Your hosts today are me, as usual, co-founder of sumApp and Greater Than the Sum, and Tim Hansen is with us today. Tim, though, is feeling under the weather, and he didn't have the energy to help me think through our agenda for in our what we would talk about today. So I just went ahead and did it without him. A little input from him, and he's just going to be present and correct me if I say something wrong. And if anybody has a question that I can't answer, which, no, I'm making a joke. There's lots of questions I can't answer that Tim can. So if we run into those, then Tim will do his best to answer. But he's a little low energy and mumbly. So. And then also we have Kara today with us, which we always have, doing tech support. And if you have any technical problems, ping Kara, and she'll also keep an eye on the questions and help me be aware when I should be paying attention to them if I'm not. Okay, so today is the third in our series of monthly events, which the first of the series comes on the second Monday of every month, which is the on-ramp, which is an intro level session where we share a map. And so this is a great place to look at a social system map if you haven't seen one. And even if you have seen social system maps, it's a great opportunity to look at other people's work and see what other people are doing and how they're approaching it. So the next on-ramp session is Monday, October 12th, and Katie Mammon is going to share the social gastronomy movement map that she's been working on the last couple of months. The third Monday of the month is our second monthly session, which is a deep dive conversation. And next month, we're going to actually talk about we're going to take a different direction than we usually do and talk about data visualization. So how can data visualization concepts inform how we design our maps, how we can make them easier for people to read and understand. And then the fourth Monday is a tech talk every month. And today we're going to talk about how to understand and use the import setting in Kumu. And in our marketing, we referred to it as the inherit setting. And I realized when I was working on setting up our example that I lied. And it's not inheriting, it's importing. So just calling that out. And as I'm telling you about this, Kara's putting links to those sessions. So if you want to sign up for any, the link is in the chat. Also, if you haven't seen a social system map and or if you're interested in seeing other people's maps or other sessions that we've done, we have a whole bunch of recordings from all of this year's sessions. So Kara has put a link to that in the chat. And another thing to be aware of is if you are in a place where you just need someone to give you the, a tip that you are, like you're stuck somewhere and you need some help with it or want a thought partner. Once a week, I have a half hour that I'm online. I'm just in my Slack and it's open and anybody can join me and ask questions. So that's every Thursday from 5 to 5:30 p.m. Central United States. And if I cancel it, I put it in our Slack. So, and I think Kara has put a chat, or will in a second, a link to our Slack team. So if you're not in our Slack and you would like to be, go ahead and log into that. So for today's agenda, we're doing our greetings and agenda review now. We'll do chat introductions in a moment. And then I'm gonna take you through how to understand and use the import, not inherit setting in Kumu. And then we'll just open it up to questions and answers, starting with questions about the import, but if we have time, we can range in any direction. And then we'll wrap up and close. Most of these sessions, we have an extra half hour that Tim and I and Kara will stick around and just have an open-ended conversation, but we're not gonna do that today. So we will fully end at the top of the hour. Okay, so let's do chat introductions. Looks like Hayo made it. So welcome, Hayo. Do you want to do just a quick mic check to make sure that your sound is working for us? Hayo, you can unmute and say hi. If you want to, you don't have to. Okay. we'll move on, but feel free to jump in and let us, if you're struggling with your sound, when you get on, just interrupt me for a moment and we'll say hi briefly. Okay, so for our chat introductions, let's start with your name, pronouns, and locations, like we always do. It's really fun to see where people are calling or zooming in from. And I'm going to put mine here. Hi, Deanna. I don't think I saw you come in. Do you want to do a mic check also?
I think it'd be fine. I think my mic's fine, probably.
Sounds good. Thanks. Welcome. And Reiner's here from Munich. And Nofa from Saskatchewan. Welcome, Nofa. And maybe Hayo's on his phone and doesn't quite have the interactivity. Oh, I mean, not Nofa, Hayo, excuse me. Snet's in Seattle. Tim's in Minnesota. Okay, now let's, in the chat, put why you're interested in this topic of the import setting, what purpose you expect it to serve for you, or what piqued your curiosity and why you're here. Aha, Deanna has banged her head against the import in Kumu. Kumu can make you bang your head. As Tim can attest. He's had, what, 7 years of head banging. Yep. Okay, so some experience and frustration, some hope for some visualization, and inkling that it might be useful, and cool, and wanting to learn. Okay, great. And then if you have any specific questions for this session about importing, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. It seemed like most of the intentions are sort of a high level, but if there's a specific thing, feel free to put it in the chat. And I will go ahead, and if Kara sees something and I have not noticed it, she'll grab me at the right time. So, oops, I will stop sharing this and go to, okay, so actually I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for just a second. Hang on. There we go. Okay, so why would anyone, so what is inheriting? Inheriting is, or importing, excuse me, when you've made a bunch of settings. So I'm gonna assume that you're familiar with the advanced editor. If you're not, we will be looking at it, so you'll get a little more familiar with it in a moment. But let's, I'm gonna, another assumption that we're building off of is that in Kumu, you can have multiple views. So you have your data set. You may have noticed that you can also make multiple maps. Each map is actually a different data set. So we usually work with just one map and just one data set. So I'm going to go with that assumption that we're in one map, but it's not, in any case, we're not really working at the map level, we're working at the view level. But any map, you can have any number of views, and the views are simply different ways of taking the underlying data. So you have this whole data set, and you're representing it in different ways, in different views. So it might be that in a view, you only want to show certain kinds of elements or certain kinds of connections, or it might be that in a view, in some views, you want to have your elements sized by some metric, and in other views, you want them to all be the same size. So your views and designing views is one of the things we'll talk about next month in the deep dive in data visualization. But as you make different views, you're trying to help people who look at the map see the various patterns in the network that you're trying to highlight. So in some views, you'll treat one thing one way, and in other views, you'll treat the same thing a different way, or you'll include different things on the view. So once you've got a view designed, or regardless of when you do this, some of those views, you may want the settings to be the same across every view. So it might be that you always want your interpersonal connections to be you know, a certain range of colors in every view, depending on their strength. So you can do two things with that. I mean, there's two ways to approach that. One is to set up generate the settings and copy it into every view that you want it to be in. Another way is to generate the settings and clone your view. So now I have view A, I'm just clone it and turn it into view B and edit the settings that you want to be different. But that can all get rather time consuming and tedious. And it can also just leave the door open for forgetting. Like I tend to forget. I'll go make a change in this view, but I'll forget that, oh, there's 5 other places I want that same bunch of settings or that same set of decorations. And I'll do it in 2 views or 3 views, but I'll forget I needed to do it in the 4th view because I'm always focused on the next thing, and I move on. And then Tim's like, oh, which one did you want? And why doesn't this look right? And this is inconsistent, which drives him nuts. So, so using the import setting is a way of having one place where you define a bunch of settings, and then importing those settings in every other view where you want to use that exact same set, so that when you want to change, for instance, often we set up a map and Tim just sort of picks a color scheme or just uses the last color scheme we use. And then at some point I get the client has an official color scheme or they have a logo. And then he has to go in and, because we try to make the colors fit their brand. So then he'll have to go in and change a bunch of colors. It's much easier for him to do it in just one place and have them go in from view to view to view. So you do it to save time, and you also do it to keep things consistent. Doing this is, I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, okay, so now I'm gonna share my screen. Let me just pause. Does anybody have any questions at the moment? Was that high level clear? Okay, okay. So I'm gonna share my screen again. And what I have here is, I'm gonna just give you a basic how we do this. And then we'll get more complex in a minute. But so this is a fresh map. All it has is a dummy data set. And so this is coming out of sumApp, but it's most of these are, aside from me, fake people. And they've got data in their surveys. But I have decorated nothing. So this is just a straight old import with no decorations, no settings, nothing whatsoever. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into settings, and just so you can see how I'm starting with this, I'm going to go in and decorate the connections. And I think it was, wait a second, decorating a custom selection. Connection type is value 1. And I'm going to make that size of that one be 2. And I'm going to make the color of it be really pale orange. And I'm going to make the legend be, say, value 1. Okay. So now you can see that we have the value 1 connections are colored really pale. And if you're not aware of how this works, this is what in Kumu is called the basic editor, and you have all kinds of options for what you want to, for ways of handling your view. So this is in the let's title the view maybe. I'm gonna name this view, I'm gonna call this basic for the moment. And so you can make all do all your interactions with around your view here, all the fundamental things. But let me save this. The other way to handle this, once you get more advanced, you'll know how to do this, is you can switch to the advanced editor, where you just see the actual code of what's going on. So before, I should have showed you that first, but before I made that decoration, there was nothing here. This was totally empty because there were no settings for the view. So I'm going to tell it to automatically apply the settings. So this is the decoration of that one line. And now I'm just going to go ahead and not make you sit and watch me do that several more times. I'm just going to copy and paste some code that I already have. And so now we have a bunch of decorations, and they're very obvious. But so let's just say that these are the connection decorations that I'm going to use in most of my views. I might have some views, for instance, if it's an offers and asks view, there might be views where I don't want this color scheme, but in general, I'm going to want this color scheme in most of my views. So I have that. And like I said, what I could do is go ahead and do all the other things I want to, make these sized the way I want them, the nodes sized the way I want them, and make some filters, etc. I could do that and then just clone it and then change, make the changes that I need for each view. But what I'm going to do instead is actually, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to rename this view to be, and I will explain why I'm doing this in a few minutes, but I'm going to rename it ZZ base connections. And then I'm going to make a new view, and it's going to be totally blank. And we're going to call this one main view. Okay, where did that go? So now I want main view.
No, you can't make blank views anymore.
Oh, you can't. So,
no, it just essentially makes a duplicate of the view you're on.
Oh, well, okay. So so if you don't want it to inherit those settings, then you'd have to go in and delete them like I just did. So now I have a view that is totally blank again. And this is going to look rather and then oh, Tim, you have to tell me how to type in this part.
At.
Thank you. At.
Space, I think.
Nah.
No.
Hang on. I can get it from here.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
No, I should have thought of this too. Okay, so I'm going to take that and put that here, but it's got to be the right name. So ZZ, what did I call it? Basic base. Is this case sensitive, Tim?
I don't know.
Okay, but you see, as soon as I put ZZ base connections, or I put the inherit and the name of the view that I wanted to inherit, or excuse me, not inherit, import, and then the name of the view whose settings I wanted to import, in quotes, it automatically pulled that in. So what you can end up with is, so I'll show you how Tim kind of does this. All of these are different sort of core decoration sets. So, and some of them will be sets of filters that will end up on a page. And so what I mean by that is, if we look at this view, we can see that there's this whole whole bunch of different filters for filtering the various across the various dimensions. There's a whole set of connection filters down here. And if you open them up, you can see that he's importing the main styled view. So first he just does the basic. These are our fundamental decorations, but then we've got, in some instances, we have the nodes scaled or not scaled. And then we have, so this one is for this, and then this one is for connections. And then he's, okay, these are, I'm not going to try and read those.
Yeah, I wouldn't explain those right now.
Yeah.
Not here, not there.
What he's done is he's basically taking like modules of how we want a view to be set up, and then he's putting them together so that when he needs to make a change, or that he can keep things consistent, and it's also much faster, because some of those, like if we look at some of the filters, these are like, the filters can be very long and complex, and if you don't use inherit or import, you could have a really long advanced set of code in your advanced editor that you have to, it's really kind of complex to sort through and figure out what's going on. So you sort of modularize it and then piece it all together, and then it's quicker and easier to read in some ways, quicker, easier to change and keep consistent. So that's the basics of inherit or import. Be nice if I could keep the word straight. Does anybody have questions about that? And then I'll talk about some helpful hints and some cautions, but I want to make sure it's all clear first. Go ahead and just unmute yourself and just jump in. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second. No questions. It was so clear. Good. Okay. It's pretty simple at its basic level.
Yeah, it is. And it's really helpful as well if one of your views is going to have, like Christine mentioned, lots and lots of filters and lots of lots of filters and lots of stuff. You can get pretty lost in the long list of things. So to build it out modularly, it just helps you keep, just kind of keeps you focused and helps you just figure out where you are and how to change things. Yeah. Yeah.
So just some helpful hints. One, for instance, when we first started doing this work, and we, before we used, we started working with Kumu in its infancy a bazillion years ago, it feels like now. And so I'm sure we started working with it before they had the view importing business going on. But once we started using views, we started to realize, like, Tim would name them one way and I would name them another way, and they would be, the views would be all, like the import views would be all mixed in with the other views. And so one day we realized that we really needed to have a naming convention. And so the first piece of it was just to do, this isn't what techie, codey people do, is when something is organized alphabetically and it's not helpful for it to be alphabetic, they'll just put Z in front of whatever they want to just be at the end. So we have this ZZ protocol, and then so ZZ inherit, I wonder if it changed. Anyway, so we call these ZZ inheritance, and then we name it based on what's going on in the settings.
Yeah,
So,
I just like to be able to find all the inheritances views really quickly. So I just put them all at the bottom.
Yeah.
And that way it's just not scattered everywhere.
Yeah. And so that way, yeah. And so that's, and then you can see really easily, if you do it the same way every time, you can start to see, do I have that view? Is it already made? Do I need to make that view? And what's it, where's it going? So that you have a little code sort of right here telling you what's going on. You don't have to think as hard as we used to.
And say you create a view and you use your inheritance, they say at import, but then they call it inheritance because you're inheriting things from another view. So if you go to Kumu's documentation, they call it inheritance there.
Do they?
Yeah, I think so. And or they mix it back and forth and they're not consistent. And so you create a view and you use your inheritance, but then say you just want to tweak it a little bit. Well, you don't want to create a whole new inheritance scheme. So you use your inheritance, and then you can, whatever is read at the bottom of that advanced editor, whatever code is last, that gets executed. So you can overwrite some of the tweaks. You can tweak the inheritance by just putting it underneath the inheritance, and it will overwrite what's being inherited. So that's a way that you can use the, most of the inheritance, but just tweak it a little bit for each view.
So for instance, let's make an example of this. So for instance, let's say that we are decorating all of our people with this burgundy, maroon, burgundy color and that icon.
You guys share your map.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So for instance, in this view right here, let's say we've got, this is how we're decorating our people and we're not scaling them. So this is pulling in another view's settings that we're inheriting. But let's say that we want to make it so that Reiner and Christine and Tim are yellow instead of, or have a yellow, let's just say are decorated yellow. We would just go, and so the other thing, what Tim is saying is basically it does everything in order from top to bottom. So the first thing it loads is this, and then it goes there, and then it goes there. So if you have a conflict, if you have two instructions for the same thing, like decorate nodes purple, but then you say somewhere else decorate nodes green, it's just going to take the lowest one in the advanced editor. So we could just come down here and put elements and then put in the name, and then at the bottom say make Reiner and Tim and Christine green. However, whatever the change is, it will override it if you put it at the bottom. Is that clear? Okay. So when you start out with a project, and this gets more, if you do lots of projects like we do, now we're pretty clear on, what's going to go in most of the views, and we just have to identify, what are the filters going to be for the higher level dimensions. But when you first start out, it's helpful to sort of draw out your views, the different kind of views you're going to want, and list out for yourself what decorations, what things you're going to want to have on the view or filtered off the view, or if you're going to want to cluster that or not. Sort of draw it out and figure out which views are going to be similar across different, which decorations are going to be similar across different views, and which are going to be this different, and sort of patch out, mush or create your little batch out the kinds of settings that you're going to want for your different views, and then start with those. And then, so you're going to make it, like, sort of figure out your modules first, and then make your modules as small as makes sense. So for instance, we used to put more settings in each inheritable view, and then we discover that no, we don't want the connection settings and the element settings in the same one, because sometimes we don't want those connection ones. And so we're just trying to make it as mix and matchable as possible by breaking it into as small clumps as possible. As you could see from the side panel of this map, any view can inherit any number of other views. So it's not like you just have to use one view, you can inherit several. Your views can be nested. So let's say view A actually inherits view A1 and A2, and then you have another view, so that you end up with you'll have view A, high level view includes view A, that will pull in view A1 and view A2. So you can have any number of levels of nesting as well. So it's just like a basic file level tree is one way to think about it. And let me see. Questions here? Okay.
Christine, can we see those things when we go to the community of practice and have a look at the editor as viewers, or just you and Tim can have the view of the advanced editor
So
to get some ideas out of that?
yeah, you actually, I think any map, any embed, so even if you're not logged into Kumu and you don't have permission and it's a private map, if you can see the map, what will be different is sometimes in some contexts, the settings icon shows and you can see that you can open it. And often with a big network, you don't want to have the icon settings showing because you don't want people to go and they can't, if it's in embed, they can't edit anything in a way that gets saved to the map. So they can't wreck the map, but they can really confuse themselves big time unnecessarily because we put all the controls on the canvas so that they don't have to think too hard about. So if they go in and they're like looking at this and they're like, oh, what is this? And what is this? They're going to get lost. It's not useful for most people. But so you can have it, there's a setting where you can make it so that that icon just doesn't show in the embed. So, and Tim has it not showing, but the trick is whether it shows or not, if you just click your T key on your keyboard, T for settings, then it will open and close. And you can, yes. The one thing you can't do though in a embed is, so this is a little bit, oh yeah, in this one, I think in this one, Tim put links. You can't, I'm sorry, in an embed, you can't see these drop downs. So you can't actually look at the whole view list in its native context like you can, like I'm showing you here because I'm in Kumu. But so for this particular map, because we wanted to make it people able to learn from it, Tim did put links down here to the views that are being inherited. So you can just like go to this particular view and then hit T and you'll see what's in that view. And so often the connections, like we're not sizing connections in an inheritable connections view. So you'll just see these lines and the dots will be nearly invisible. That doesn't mean there's a problem. That means we did not make settings for that, for the nodes. We just made settings for the connections.
Right. You want to do the elements elsewhere.
Yeah. And then, so the views that you're inheriting often don't look very appealing because they're modular and they're just a piece of the overall composed picture.
Yeah, I try not to like set things that I'm gonna set elsewhere. That way you're not forcing Kumu to read something, then reread it, then reread it, then reread it elsewhere, which only kind of will just gum it up and bog it down. So like I don't set any kind of gravity or anything here. I just let it all clump together because I'm going to set that elsewhere. Yeah.
So I see a question. Reiner, you said ZZ top. Oh, I had to say it out loud to get it. It's like Z's at the end of the alphabet. How come you don't? What are you talking about, dude? You're confusing me. That's good. Yeah. Good. So, oh, hang on. Let's just see. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, hang on. I have to see. Okay, never mind. I was going to be humorous and put on never mind. Okay, cautions. So the last thing is when not to use it. And it's because it's a little bit easy to overdo it and use it when it's not applicable. Oh, first, there's a couple things that it won't inherit. And I'm going to show you some of that. Pop-ups. So Tim likes to
Well,
make.
it's not pop-ups specifically, it's partial views. So if you're not using, you can't inherit partial views. So if you're not using partial views yet, I guess that doesn't matter. But yeah,
So
so yeah, partial views have to be made for each instance, each view.
and partial views are, actually, we should maybe do a tech talk on partial views now that I think you mentioned it. Partial views are complex and I don't do them, so I know nothing about them except that I know that they exist. Well, it's like you can make a whole view, like a whole setup, and then put it into a control. So that, for instance, here, one of the views has.
You gotta show your mapping there, your
Okay.
screen.
Okay. So in this directory view, this little button here, or this little, it's just a little teeny tiny toggle thing. And when you turn it on, if you hover over a node, you get this pop-up thing. Well, first Tim sets a view that has this pop-up, and then he calls the view with this little dot. So there's places where Tim does this rather complex, sophisticated stuff of, like, you can't just do it in a straightforward way in a view, but you can do it in another view. And then like, there's sometimes I just want things to be really specific, and those often use partial views. I don't even know how to explain it. So
In this, well, if it, for whatever it's worth, in this particular instance, you can set what are called pop-ups. So you, like if Christine clicks that little button again, you get a little ring around certain people. So you can see the little black ring shows up around some people, and that tells you that they have
data in
a
there.
little pop-up in there that shows if you hover on them.
Why does Jim have a pop-up and Sarah not have a pop-up?
Because that's the way it's done, because it's set up so that if that field that you want to show in the pop-up doesn't have any data in it, it doesn't show. And
Okay.
this way you don't have to, like,
Hover over them.
hover over things that don't have anything in there, so
Okay.
that people can focus their attention.
Okay.
And if you have a dense map, as an example of why you'd use a partial view, is like if you scrolled through your dense map, you would be getting pop-ups constantly over and over and over, where you're just trying to get to somebody in the middle of the map, and you don't always want that interference from navigating all of your elements. So I wanted a way to turn them on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Tim, is there anything else in your head that, when not to use it? So obviously don't bother trying if you're using a partial view. Are there any other times that you think it's not worth, or when is it not use it?
Oh, if you're only going to have 2 or 3 views, maybe it's not really worth it. It's 2 views, you could just keep track of everything pretty easily. That might be a time when you don't really need it.
Cool. So.
But I have to admit, I just find it so convenient to change something in one location and not have to remember where else I have everything. Particularly if you work on your map and then go work on some other map, and then you come back to that map and you're like, I can't quite remember what I did. So having that inheritance set up, I find really convenient, and I use it all the time.
So I think we're done with our presentation and our demo. And you guys, if you have either questions about that or anything else that you want to talk about, we've got another almost 20 minutes. Or if you're done and you just want to say goodbye, you can do that too.
I would like to invite Hayo to make himself visible or audible, because I am as I wrote in the chat, that we are working on a map that looks for the connection of places where educational things are happening, and connect those to the SDGs. And there I do have a question. If we could, first we need to construct different views, I guess. One would be a view where we have a map of the streets and where the places are, like a geomap. And this thing that organizations or people who are represented in round bubbles, is there a way to put their connections to the SDGs in another form, that the SDGs show up as a how do you call what the bees, six point shaped thing, or at least
like a hexagon or something?
hexagon. Thanks, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Would that be possible?
I don't know.
I've never tried that. I mean, there's nothing, usually that you can make a circle or you can make a square.
Square. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to,
or, you know, a rectangle,
Mhm.
a square, a rectangle. Those are the two shapes that you can easily make.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you could make a picture and then use that. You could do that, I'm sure. You can instead of a node, you can use an icon instead of a square or a circle. And so you could get an icon of a hexagon, I guess.
Mhm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Does it?
Thanks.
Yeah.
So those are two ideas we can have a look at and report you if we succeeded.
Thanks. Nofa, were you going to ask something?
So I just came on to say goodbye. I've used a little bit of it, so I'm just really still playing with it. We do have some meetings with the folks that are helping us kind of get this off the ground. So I feel like it'll make a little more sense with sort of, I have one created, but yeah, so it was good to see though. I appreciate the knowledge. So yeah.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll see you again. sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks for saying goodbye. Yeah. Anyone else? Asnat, you're good? Does this seem useful?
Yeah, I've never used it before, but I can see definitely the potential.
Good.
So this is just now go and play.
Good. Good. Thanks. So Hayo, are you, he might still be having, just not in a place where it's useful to try and interact.
I tried to push him on the, or poke him on the phone, but don't know
Yeah.
where he is right now.
Well, that's okay. Any other totally different questions in a different realm, or is everybody good? You're good? Okay. Well, then maybe we'll be done early and have an extra 10 minutes. Okay.
This
Great.
is fabulous. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. So we'll do our thing, even though it's just a few of us. So everybody, we unmute and then I count down and then we all give each other our greetings for the rest of the day. So 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice
Macht's es
day.
gut.
Bye.
Vielen Dank.
Bye.
Bye.